Three. U.N.I.A. world. Welcome to the Black Coffee Podcast. I am your host, James Allen. The Black Coffee Podcast, your safe haven for education and spiritual liberation. Hashtag power to the people and long live the ancestors. You can also email the show at uniaworld@gmail.com. I bring peace and blessings to listeners all over the world. You could have been doing anything with your time right now, but you are here with me in the Black Coffee Podcast, and I greatly appreciate it. This episode is going to be brought to you by See Your Clothing. That's See Your Clothing, CYOR Clothing.com. Create your own reality. Create your own reality so nobody else will. They have a nice selection of hoodies, reflective hoodies, for women and men, and have little baby stuff. I actually wear a lot of the shirts. If you see that See Your shirts, I'll be wearing a lot on air. So cool sometimes. And Keyshawn, I need my hoodie. He always treat I wanted a hoodie, but somebody else wanted it. So he told me, he said, "Dad, I gotta give it to somebody else." So he's about his business. He want to please his fans and please his customers first. He's doing real good. He's actually getting ready to go to this pop shop in New York City where they did display their clothing and their stuff somewhere up there in New York. Some pop shop, something he just got finished talking to me about. So I'm really proud of him. I want my sweatshirt. I know he's listening. Give him my sweatshirt. Keyshawn. Also, I will also like to announce that my next podcast, I am so ready for this one. So cool. It is COVID-19 vaccines in the community. This one is really special. I've had to really dig deep in my history on medicine and vaccines, and there's a lot of great points from both sides of this subject, and it's going to make a classic. Everything we do in here, so cool, is great work, but they're classic work, and I think this is going to be classic work for us. All right. So cool. Good day, sir. So cool. Can you give me a round of applause for me, please, sir? If you don't mind, give it a round of applause. Round of applause. There you go. Man. I'm glad you laughed, too. I'm glad you laughed. Because I was giving a round of applause for you. Our podcasts have reached the top 50 percentile again. We're streaming in 6 different countries. We have a special guest today from another country. We're moving up. I wanted to give a special hand clap and laugh. I'm glad you laughed too as well, So Cool, because So Cool is doing a really good job when it comes to engineering this podcast. Y'all have no idea how much stress I put this man through over this podcast. I promise you. Man, come on, man. What are you doing? You have no idea what I put this man through. And he just laughs at me, and I be dead serious. And he just laughs at me. But you know what? It's because I want perfection. And he wants perfection. And everything he has done up until the time I've known him has been near perfection. And together, we're making a great black coffee sound. So I just want to congratulate him as well. All right. So cool. Good day, sir. Let's work. Episode 7. Who are you? Developing your identity. I am elated and so glad today to have a special guest today. Now, there's a funny story about this. He don't know it yet, but I was deliberately ignoring him. He kept trying to get in touch with me, once I was putting on my stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, it's a hacker, it's spam. But of course, me being around long enough, reading things online, I just could tell by the message it was just a little different. So I said, all right, I'm gonna see what this dude about. Well, I got on the via Zoom with him, and right away I felt this energy, and we started talking, and he wanted to come on, and I called him Shaquilliam. I think it was wrong. His name is Shaquille, but very, very, very humble dude. I came away very impressed, and I immediately said, let's do the show. I went and got the graphics done that day. He's a clinical youth worker in Canada. Now, I knew I had a base up there in Canada. I didn't know where it was from. I didn't know where it was coming from. So I definitely want to... I want Black Coffee Podcast to give him a warm welcome when we bring him on. But first, before we bring him on, because when we was talking, I said to him, what do you want to talk about? And he immediately just said to me, who are you developing your identity? And what he don't know and the world don't know is after we got off that call, I immediately started doing his subject to myself. And I think about it as myself, and I'm going to say this real quick. I'm gonna give a little bit of me. People say, you always hear the Marcus Garvey. A good friend of mine said, you always hear the Marcus Garvey part of James. They don't know the other side of James. And I said, you need to listen to the podcast. And he know who I'm talking to. He's probably listening. You need to listen to the podcast. I open up. I show my other sides. But I came away and I was thinking, developing your identity, when you're young, in my 20s, I thought I knew it all. And I think your identity is developed over time. You don't really know who you are at first. So I think that develops. And life has its ways of putting increments in that development that shapes you. I think for me, being a parent very young shaped me in the wrong and right way. I made a lot of mistakes early on in parenting. And, he's just now starting to realize, like, wow, you was trying to get yourself together while trying to be a parent. And that's hard. And I'm talking about particularly my oldest son, because he's went through the most when it comes to my development. He's went through the most when it comes to my development. So cool. Because I learned the lessons from him that I made, the mistakes I made, and I installed those with my other kids. But the reason going back to what your identity, what makes you? What type of trends are you? What is your legacy? Who are you? And I really just found out who I really was. I did. And sometimes understanding who you are is accepting a lot of things about yourself. And that's particularly hard. So cool. My principal, I always want to call her my principal. Her name is Renata Clyburn. I'm tired of calling her my mentor. I'm just going to call her name out on my podcast. And she said, right before I came, when she knew I was transitioning and coming to Atlanta, well, this is before then. She always told me this. She is my mentor. She said, James, you're just late. You do everything late. You're going to get it in time, but it's just late. If I say turn this in on Thursday at 3 o'clock, you're the one that's going to turn in at 2:59. And she said, James is going to follow you wherever you go. Man, I said, well, I'm going to show her. And I got down to Atlanta, and it was a whole different ball game, a whole different thing. But, but my principal at my new school, she said, Jay, now you don't be late, James, but you always right there. Because people pick up on that stuff. And where I'm going with this is you are who you are. So don't let your mistakes shape you. Understand them and realize them and make things better. And make things better for yourself. And I always say this, okay? If you're lacking in one thing, be great in the other. Because yes, sometimes I am all over the place. And I admit that. I have a lot of things going on. But when I get in front of kids, so crew, when it's time to do that job, oh, you can best believe I'm going to get the job done. And that's what makes me. My principals tell me all the time, boy, if you couldn't teach, good God in the morning. So that's who I am. That's how I've been shaped. That's who I am. And I'm fine with that. And I'm blessed to have great relationships and everything that's going on in my life. So that's who I am, and I find out who I am as I get ready to turn 40 years old in August. Well, coming up, ladies and gentlemen, we have our special guest. We have a couple topics we're going to talk about. And I'm not going to steal his shine. Okay? So coming up, ladies and gentlemen, after the break, Shaquille, clinical social worker from Canada, coming up after the break. And I am your host, James Allen.